In 1878, a Pennsylvania farmer hung a burlap sack filled with $4 worth of mineral pellets from a beam in his root cellar. That sack kept the entire space bone dry. Through a July heat wave, while the humidity outside sat at 84%, the air inside was crisp, still and cool. Nobody touched that sack for 2 years. Not once during those 2 years. No electricity, no machine. And there is absolutely no monthly bill. Just a sack of cheap pellets doing a job that a modern dehumidifier costs you thousands of dollars to do. And this method is still available to you right now, today, for almost nothing. If you are new here, hit subscribe real quick. Now, here is the part that should genuinely make you angry. The home dehumidifier industry earns $1.7 billion every single year. The average electric dehumidifier burns 300 watts of power every hour it runs. Over the course of its lifespan, which is only 5 to 7 years before it breaks, the average homeowner spends somewhere between $8,000 and $12,000 in electricity, repairs, and replacements. And this cycle never ends. The machine dies, you buy another one, the power bill climbs, and the company keeps winning while you keep paying. But the story gets darker than that. In 1947, major appliance manufacturers launched a decade-long advertising campaign inside popular magazines like Better Homes and Gardens. The goal was specific and deliberate. They targeted American housewives and told them that calcium chloride trays, the same mineral pellets used in that Pennsylvania root cellar, were dirty, old-fashioned, and unreliable. They ran ads calling them primitive. They made women feel embarrassed to use them. By 1959, the lime tray had been completely shamed out of existence. Replaced not because it stopped working. Replaced because a billion-dollar industry needed you to buy a humming electric box instead. The lime tray still worked. It works today. It has always worked. And you can set one up in your home this afternoon for about $4. So let us talk about exactly what this method is, why it works on a science level, how to set it up properly, where to use it, and a few upgrades that make it even more powerful. Because once you understand this, you will look at your electricity bill very differently. The mineral at the center of this entire method is called calcium chloride. If that name sounds familiar, it is because you have probably seen it on ice melt bags in winter. It is the white crystalline material that hardware and grocery stores sell in small tubs, often labeled as moisture absorber or damp rid. But here is what most people do not realize. The generic unbranded calcium chloride you can buy in bulk is the exact same compound, and it costs a fraction of the price. A 2-pound bag can cost under $4 depending on where you shop, and that 2 pounds can actively pull moisture from the air in a space up to 150 cubic feet for 1 to 3 months before it needs to be refreshed. Here is the science in simple terms. Calcium chloride is what chemists call hygroscopic. That means it has a natural and very powerful pull toward water molecules in the air. When humid air comes into contact with calcium chloride crystals, the crystals absorb the moisture directly out of the air and hold it. As they absorb more and more, the crystals slowly dissolve into a salty brine solution at the bottom of whatever container they are sitting in. That brine is proof the system is working. The drier the crystals, the less absorbed. The wetter and heavier the bottom of the container, the more moisture has been pulled from your air. No compressor, no coils, no filter to replace, no circuit board to fry. Just chemistry that has been working reliably since before electricity existed. Now here is the setup that actually works. And this is where most people go wrong when they try this for the first time. If you just throw some calcium chloride into an open bowl and leave it, you will get some results, but the performance will be inconsistent and slow. The original method, and the one that kept that Pennsylvania root cellar dry for 2 full years, used a fabric container with airflow built in. You need a mesh bag, a fabric pouch, or even an old pillowcase with holes poked in it. Burlap works excellently if you can find it. You fill that bag with your calcium chloride crystals, and then you hang it, not place it, hang it, from a hook, a nail, a beam, or a shelf edge in the space you want to dry out. Hanging matters because it allows air to circulate around all sides of the bag. A bag sitting flat on a shelf only gets airflow from the top. A hanging bag gets airflow from every angle, which means it pulls moisture from a much larger volume of air much more efficiently. Underneath the hanging bag, you place a catch bowl or a bucket. As the crystals dissolve and drip, the brine falls cleanly into the bowl below. When the crystals are gone, you either refill the bag or dissolve the remaining brine and recrystallize it. Yes, that is an option we will get to in a moment. But for most people, a fresh $4 bag every 2 to 3 months is the total cost of the system. Let us talk about where this works best, because placement is everything with this method. Basements are the #1 application. They are enclosed, often dark, have limited airflow, and constantly deal with moisture seeping through foundation walls. A basement that runs an electric dehumidifier 8 hours a day is spending serious money every month. 2 or 3 hanging calcium chloride bags placed in different corners of a basement can maintain dry conditions passively around the clock for months. Closets are the next big one. Musty closets where clothes absorb moisture, wood warps, and that faint mildew smell creeps in over time. A single small bag hung from the rod solves this problem without you doing anything. No electricity needed in a closet, no outlet required, just a bag, a hook, and a bowl. Crawl spaces are arguably the most important application, and the one where this method saves people the most money. A crawl space that stays damp is a slow-moving disaster for a house. It creates mold, attracts pests, warps subfloors, and destroys insulation. Running electric dehumidification in a crawl space is expensive and complicated. A series of large hanging calcium chloride bags costs almost nothing and handles the job consistently and silently. Storage units, garages, RVs, boats, sheds, server closets, gun safes, camera equipment cases, vintage clothing storage, document archives. The method scales up and down to any size space. For a gun safe or a small storage box, a single tablespoon of calcium chloride in a small mesh tea bag is enough. For a 2-car garage, you might use 4 to 6 large hanging bags. Now, here is the upgrade most people do not know about. You can regenerate your calcium chloride and reuse it almost indefinitely. When your bag is spent and all you have left is brine in the catch bowl, that brine still contains your calcium chloride in dissolved form. If you pour that brine into a baking tray and bake it at low heat, around 250 degrees Fahrenheit, for 2 to 4 hours, the water evaporates and what you are left with is a tray of regenerated calcium chloride crystals. Not quite as perfect as fresh, but highly functional. Refill your bag, hang it back up, and your $4 investment just paid for another cycle. This regeneration trick is why the farmer's sack lasted 2 years. With consistent maintenance, the same stock of mineral can be refreshed and reused over and over again. The cost approaches nearly zero over time. There is one important thing to keep in mind as you set this up. Calcium chloride brine is a salt solution, and if it drips onto metal, wood, or fabric, over a long period of time it can cause corrosion or staining. This is why the catch bowl underneath is not optional. Make sure your bowl is large enough to handle a full cycle's worth of brine without overflowing, and check it every few weeks during high humidity months. In drier seasons, the crystals absorb far less, and the brine drips slowly, if at all. Also, calcium chloride should not be used in spaces with children or pets who could get into the catch bowl. The brine is not highly toxic, but it is a salt solution that can cause skin and eye irritation. And if a small animal drinks from it in a crawl space or garage, it is not a good situation. Keep the setup out of reach, and if you have concerns about access, switch to a lidded collection system where the bag hangs inside a sealed bucket with holes drilled in the lid. Same airflow, contained brine. Here is the bigger picture that ties this all together. The 1947 campaign that killed the calcium chloride tray was not the last time an industry replaced something simple, cheap, and effective with something expensive and electric. This pattern has repeated itself dozens of times across dozens of industries. The goal is not always to give you the best solution. Sometimes the goal is to give you the most profitable solution, which is a very different thing. This method works. It has worked for over 150 years. It costs $4. It requires 0 watts. It has no moving parts to break, no filter to replace, no smart app to update, and no subscription to maintain. It handles spaces where running electrical cords is difficult, impractical, or just wasteful. And once you learn to regenerate the crystals, the long-term cost becomes almost nothing. The Pennsylvania farmer who hung that burlap sack in 1878 was not doing anything revolutionary. He was doing something logical, and you can do the exact same thing this week. If you found this useful, share it with someone who is fighting a moisture problem right now, a neighbor with a damp basement, a friend with a musty closet, or someone about to drop hundreds of dollars on a dehumidifier they do not need. And if you want more hidden knowledge, forgotten methods, and practical hacks that save you real money, make sure you are subscribed. There is a lot more where this came from,